Oh, wow. Your voice has changed. I'll call to order this District of Clearwater Council meeting, regular council meeting for Tuesday, December 7th, 2021 at 2 p.m. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded territory of the Sim people who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Are there any light items to add to the agenda? See, yes. What do we have for late items? Youth Parliament. Where are we gonna add that under? Other business, something like that? Unfinished? Up at the front? Sure, let's call it 7-2 then. Youth Parliament. I have a feeling we'll be asked for more. Okay. Anything else? If not, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda with extra items? Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor? And that passes, including the people on screen. Adoption of the minutes. Any errors or omissions? Not emissions, omissions. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by somebody else. Stick your finger in the air. Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor? And that is passed. Moving on to item 7.1, cemetery committee appointments. There's a recommendation that council appoint Brent Cooper as a member of the Cemetery Advisory Select Committee for a 1-year term. Somebody wish to make that recommendation? Yes. Okay, so maybe yeah, it's up to 5. Is that the? Okay, and he's, yep, go ahead, Councillor. Any further questions of staff? Somebody wish to move the recommendation? Okay, yeah, somebody's, and I see Councillor Herring seconds that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. And then item 7.2, Youth Parliament. What's going on with Youth Parliament staff?
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. We've had, from what I understand, 2 people interested. I've seen an email today from a second person that's interested. So I'm not sure exactly what the cost is per person, but I know the resolution was for 500. So I wasn't sure if we wanted to accept 2 or adjust the resolution or pick one.
Thoughts, council? Councillor Sim?
We can hear Councillor Sim.
Oh. Councillor Sim is correcting herself with a microphone here. 1 second.
If we did 425, is that fine, Councillor Herring?
So you're wanting to add?
I would like to add another 500.
Okay. So that's amending or a second. That's technically a second one. Okay. Councillor Taylor.
I was just gonna, should we get confirmation that we're talking about the same 2 people? It's not a third. Like Martha Taylor and Noel Mudderman. Yeah, okay. Just checking in case there was another one that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
They were both accepted. Their applications were both accepted. Yeah, there was a mix up. Her email went to their junk inbox. So they thought her application was late.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. Anyways. So I believe that's moved and seconded, or was it moved and seconded? Moved by Councillor, or moved by you are thank you for declaring a contract. Moved by Councillor Sim. Would somebody like to second adding? So Councillor McKenzie seconds adding another up to $500 for that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? I think this is great experience for people. Every single person that I've talked to that's come back from that has said it's basically been an enlightening and somewhat life-changing experience.
Did we need to clarify that for the paper that's in the room? Well, maybe after.
She gets it all recorded, so there we go. Okay, so no public or statutory hearings, no presentations. Wow, no delegations. Moving on to item 11, Mayor's Report. A lot going on. The things I can talk about, went down to Chuchua on November 24th for the ceremonial signing of the SIMP Interfor Transfer Tenure Agreement. I believe SIMP is receiving 40,000 cubic meters of additional tenure cut. They are still currently working on a further deal with community forests that will come from SIMP. But we expect to hear from that in the next month or two. Have had conversations with Interfor about Road 2 and 2A. Also had conversations with Trans Mountain about housing and some other issues, and I'll get into some of that sometime later. But that's basically it for the public stuff. Also started the discussion on water meters to try to float it out there and see what public opinion is going to be on that. No feedback yet, but I expect that to change. Moving on to council reports. Councillor Bamford, you are up first.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. On the 18th, I attended an Emergency Management BC call on behalf of the mayor. And I think the one is pretty well old news, a lot of it now dealing with the flooding in the Fraser Valley. But one of the things I think is pertinent is that Kamloops put forward the suggestion that an Emergency Management BC office, regional office, be put in Kamloops. And it was fairly well accepted and thought it was worth considering by a lot of the ministers. So that may happen in the future, given the wildfires and the situation we had in the summer. And another one, just one of the interesting things is that apparently they were using more trucks than they've ever used through the US during the issue when the flooding was occurring, using to try to get goods and services moving. And there was a ship that had feed for livestock that was bound for China, and they actually turned it around and brought it back to BC to use for the people in the Lower Mainland. And on the second, I attended a forestry working group call. It was really interesting. Everybody was invited, but there was really very little participation from the licensees, other than Sam Phillips, who is now back with SRG, Simp Resources Group. He worked there for years and years and years, and then he left, and now he's back. The outcome of that call was that they'd still like to have meetings in the future. It'll probably be more topical when things come up that affect the community. And they may look at having one meeting a year just to touch base with each other. And some topics about unfinished business were brought up that are being looked into, as far as wood for artisans in the community by using the Forest Service Reserve and things like that, and some of the fireproofing for the community and things like that, given the wildfire seasons. And then I also attended on the December the 2nd a mayor's roundtable on vaccines on behalf of the mayor. Basically, some of the stuff that came out of that, booster doses have started for seniors, and they should be available by everybody by the end of May. And the children campaign has started, but you have to register in order to get children 5 to 12 a shot. There's no drop-ins. And they will be doing a rural area thing like they did last time in the future, so that everybody can go and get a youth shot or a booster shot. And PharmaSave is now doing flu shots, which they have been for a while. And the interesting thing there is Merritt, and Merritt's really struggling, has had 2 schools that were flooded and probably won't open until September the 22nd. And there'll likely be 300 homes lost in Area 4 when the people get back in. So that pretty well concludes my report and the calls that I had. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for covering all those things. Almost all of them had a conflict, but it's also good for you to hear and see what's going on. Can you hear me right now? Councillor Bamford? Oh. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Wave your hands frantically if you can't hear me. Moving on to Councillor Frizzle.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. I did for the first time agenda setting with the mayor and CAO. That was very enlightening. I learned a lot from that. I've also have planned a seniors bagged lunch, pickup lunch. Unfortunately, we're really hoping we'd be able to get together and sit and meet this month, but it's not feasible. So we're going to just have a bag pickup lunch and hopefully have a little bit of a visit outside the Legion on December 14th. And we're also working on a funding opportunity from New Horizons for Seniors. It's a federal funding opportunity. So we're looking into that. And the seniors are very excited about the wind phone, and the man sheds are, I think they probably have it almost finished. And then this morning I got a phone call from CBC. She said, I saw your name attached. So she said, I wanted to phone and find out about this wind phone. So we had a nice long discussion about that. And I told her that when we're ready to install it, we'll give her a call, and she really wants to come up and be part of it. So that'll be pretty exciting. And that's my report.
Thank you. Very cool stuff for sure. Moving on to Councillor Herring, your turn.
Yeah, not much to report on in the last couple of weeks. There's been a ton of COVID in the school and elsewhere in the community. So I've been on various waves of isolation, whether it's through just exposures at school or exposures everywhere else. So not much going on.
Yeah, hunker down. Sounds good. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Not a lot for myself these past 3 weeks around council business. Did want to just congratulate the U13 hockey team this weekend. Just from experience growing up minor hockey myself, it's pretty satisfying get first place when you're out of town, but there's something special about being able to raise a trophy in your own hometown fans, whatnot. So players, coaches, job well done there for this weekend. At the children's vaccine clinic between my circle and beyond, a lot of talk about that. People who never in a million years would I think would be considering it are considering it, and vice versa on the other end of the spectrum. So we'll see. I want to say our clinics are going to be pretty good. Well, between last week and the 16th, I think we should have a good turnout for that. Here's to hoping it holds true to what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's good. I think it will turn around here. I think our numbers are still relatively low versus the provincial average for vaccinations in this section of the valley, is my understanding. I think we're still maybe pushing towards 80, but we're somewhere between 75 and 80%. But we are chipping away at that day by day. And with continued restrictions, TNRD has now gone full vaccine mandate for employees and contractors, and they're not the only one. I'm seeing that happen. Those dominoes fall on other governments and for allowing access to buildings like ours as well across the country. So thank you for your update and your work on and advice on that one. Councillor Sim.
Just before, what is the dates of the vaccination clinic that's being held down at the ski hill? Does anybody?
16th, I believe, is that? Yeah, it's the Thursday.
Okay, we just got a hydro notification of the ski hill
Oh.
closing. So I'm like, oh my God.
Make plans and watch them burn.
Yeah, right. Okay, we want to get the numbers up, but we need power. So I was going to invoke some help at this table, but we're okay. So I think, to say what Councillor Frizzle's saying is that people are desperately trying to find ways to be social. So I'm very happy that our Healthy Living program actually allowed 2 nights of salsa, which was really fun down at the ski hill. Great instructor. And that was fun. And then just having the Christmas market down at the ski hill was also just excellent. And just seeing people trying to regain that momentum. And I think that the other nice thing about that market is to acknowledge how successful the markets are at the Elks and the winter market, and seeing how that all feeds into our local economy in one way, shape, or form. So I think that, as a successful pivot, that's what it is. And then just kind of gearing up for the Christmas Eve community dinner. So we still have lots of spaces there, and people have been very, very generous. So if anybody knows of anybody who, would like to have a surprise meal or to sponsor a family or do anything like that, we've got lots of room to accept and welcome people. So that's probably everything.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm glad that's going on again. Congratulations on, how many years is this now? 4?
4.
Wow. I was doing the math in my head. That's amazing. Thank you for your.
For somebody who doesn't like to cook.
Yes, but encourages other people to get out there and pale potatoes. Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, so the main thing I just wanted to mention was Clearwater's been selected to host the Okanagan Championships for, I think, U13 and U18. That's the good news. The bad news is we cannot accommodate the teams in our hotels in March. So I think there'll be more conversation to come, see how we can get creative, because this is impacting not only the tournaments that we're hosting, but also the opportunity to host the championships, which would be amazing for Clearwater, obviously. So more to come for that. But yeah, it was great to see the U13s with their home tournament win. And it wouldn't have been possible without our sports coordinator, events coordinator, Mel Romeo, and all the arena staff who make those events so great. So thank you.
Thank you. Go Ice Hawks, right? Right.
Mhm.
Good stuff. Moving on to Committee of the Whole reports, Economic Development, Councillor Frizzle,
Next meeting, 2022.
Councillor Bamford, Infrastructure. All this will kind of
Next meeting is to be in 2022.
Parks and Rec, Councillor McKenzie under its new name.
Next meeting, 2022.
Finance and Audit, Councillor Herring is on here.
We have a workshop later today, and that's today, December 7th.
Thank you. Standing Committee Reports, Joint Services Advisory Committee. Next meeting will be January 10th. I know that was yours, Bill, but I just might as well get into it. Select Committee Reports, Community Economic Development Task Force, Councillor Frizzle.
I just wanted to report on the meeting that we had on November 16th. It was very well attended, and we had BC Housing there. We had a realtor there, True Consulting, TNRD, and there was a lot of information that was put out by these people, and there was lots of questions asked, lots of ideas given, and lots of connections made. You can see in the CAO's report the things that were discussed and the changes and whatnot. I really think there was a connection made, and hopefully that we'll find ways of connecting with each other and being able to talk things through and finding solutions instead of problems. So I was encouraged by that meeting. So, and the next meeting will be announced.
Thank you. Trails Task Force Committee, Councillor Taylor.
The next meeting will be to be determined.
Recruitment and Retention Committee, Councillor Bamford.
Next meeting to be announced or determined.
Thank you. And Cemetery Advisory. Ooh, that's a new committee. So we haven't got a meeting set for that yet.
We haven't got a meeting set, but we have had some initial emails in between three of us sort of saying that our schedules are pretty open. So we're still working on setting a date.
Excellent. Awesome. Glad to see that underway. Community representation reports, Tourism Wells Gray, Councillor Sim.
No word of when the next meeting is, but hopefully shortly, because they are trying to look at the viability of the information center. And before you know it, our tourism season will be there. So hopefully that will come quickly.
Yes. Wells Gray Community Forest Commission, Councillor Bamford.
The next meeting is to be announced, but we did have a bit of an email campaign and agreed that we're going to move ahead with the scholarship and the people that'll be on the committee.
Thank you. Moving on to staff reports, there is a CAO report in your package. Do you have any questions? Mr. Thomas, want to speak to anything in there?
I just want to add as a new update, our awesome Director of Finance will be stepping away, actually taking a promotion in some respects. She'll be joining the Regional District of Peace River as their Chief Financial Officer. And so I'd like to congratulate her on that progress in her career. And thank you for the service to the District of Clearwater and the community. And sad for us, we have to find a new Director of Finance.
Gonna make me cry here. Yes. Thank you for acknowledging Ms. Shepherd's service. And I had to look back because I actually found a copy of your acceptance letter or when we were doing that stuff. And yeah, it seems like forever, but it's only been 2017, something like that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your time. It's been a very steady ship in your hands. Okay, enough of that. So are there any further questions or comments on the CEO's report? There's a lot in there as usual. Okay. If you have any questions, bring them straight to Mr. Thomas. I'm sure he'll
One
be.
more.
One
update.
more?
Yep.
One more. Okay.
I'm currently, as an action item from the housing workshop that was done, trying to set up a meeting with different financial institutions to talk about Clearwater's construction financing risk rating.
Okay.
And see how we can work around that to create some pots of funding for Clearwater area.
Excellent. Yeah, we got it. That was one of the Councillor Frizzle, correct me, that was one of the concerns that was raised. One of the big concerns raised at the task force meeting. Okay, moving on to the next item. 2022 Council Committee and Acting Mayor schedules. There is a layout in here. If there is something you would like to change, defer, switch up, we can do that. But there is a recommendation right now. Have a look through it. Yeah, sure. Councillor Sim, go ahead.
So the first one, which is on page 21 of the agenda, regular council meetings must, and one of it is be adjourned at 8 p.m. on the day. I'm wondering if that could be amended to 6 p.m. unless council resolves to proceed beyond that time. I didn't know if there was a reason for it. I wasn't sure.
It's written in the procedure bylaw, so it will require an amendment of the bylaw.
Well, I guess it's good to keep that then. Got enough to do. So, no. No. we
No.
don't, but it's a long.
I'll give that a hard no.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, which is why I suggested the 6. But
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
And then when we're ready, I wouldn't mind just having another discussion about the, is this where we're going to go to the committee structure, or I wasn't sure how this was going to flow.
I think that's in the next section, is it not?
Where are we still on the dates? Okay. So if we're
Yeah.
still on the
We're still on the
date,
dates.
so what I would at this point in time lean towards option 3. The reason being is I wonder as we go through the finance meetings and some of those as we may need that meeting and do the April 5th. And is there an option to use the larger meeting room down the hall, or is that completely booked, or how we can adapt our location?
So the gist of it is we
Let's
can't
move the
use
moving.
this chamber here, but can we meet somewhere else and still retain the April 5th meeting? Is that what I got? Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate having all 3 of those options. I just feel that there's going to be some work that has to be done. And even as I look at that scheduling, we have to remember that that October 18th meeting, we won't really be council. So I favor keeping that meeting and making sure that we're maximizing our time.
And work with that. That's the wish of all council, if they figure we're gonna need that time. Councillor Frizzle?
One thing I was sort of thinking in the same lines as Councillor Sim, but I was thinking if we couldn't use this room for the April 5th, could we use that last Tuesday in March, because there's 3 Tuesdays there. So there was that option as well.
Spring break.
Is it spring break then? Are we doing 2 weeks?
Yeah, we got 2 weeks spring break.
Oh, I thought we were only doing 1 week now. Okay, never mind. We went back to 2. I had no idea. See what happens when you don't have kids in school? You don't know.
Okay, so I think if we amended option 1 to remove that council cancels the April 5th meeting or council reschedules the April 5th meeting.
Well, couldn't we do option 3?
Because there's actually more in option 1 than just,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So I would move option number 1 with the amendment is that that council reschedules the place of the April 15th.
yeah,
fifth
we
meeting.
can, let's just do reschedules it, because if we have to move it a day or two either way. But we retain the meeting, but we may not be having it on that day. And we've done that before when it's conflicted. It just, there's a big block of cord in there that day.
You could take the language of the second statement in option 3 and move it up to option 1.
Good
Okay,
call.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure, just do that. Last line, option 3 replaces second line in option 1. Okay, so the amended recommendation, somebody want to second that? Anybody? You? Okay, you did, Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor? Okay, and that moves forward with the schedule and council. If there's a conflict with a month or you need to change something on any of the other things on that schedule, just get a hold of me or Mr. Thomas and we'll work through that. Okay. Sorry, mover was Councillor Sim, seconder was Councillor Frizzle. And we'll work that out. Okay, now I got to find out where I am again. Okay, so that actually is technically all 3 recommendations that we passed there. What did we pass?
I would say you passed just the alternative piece. Do the others in separate motions, I think would be easier.
Okay, yeah, so I'm looking at it on my agenda package versus, so that one's, so that's first recommendation. Second recommendation is that council approves the appointments to the committees of the District of Clearwater, standing select and external for a term effective January 1st, 2022 as presented. Okay, Councillor Sim.
So first of all, I'm just wondering if we have to rescind the motion that we had made about these committee restructures on, I believe it was November 4th. So I don't know if we have to do that first before we vote for the new committees, because we did vote for it on the November the 4th, I believe.
You can, yes.
So before we proceed, your recommendation is that we rescind the,
Yes.
So Councillor Sim, would you like a?
I move to rescind the suggested standing committees as presented at the November 4th meeting.
Okay, seconder on that one. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? Move forward with the new recommendation. That council approves the appointments to the committees of this, moved by Councillor Frizzle,
Oh,
seconded.
hang on, hold it. What are we doing?
Okay, so we just rescinded that. So-
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's the recommendation that council approves the appointments to the committees of the District of Clearwater, standing select external for a term effective January 1st, 2022 is presented. Discussion. Councillor Sim.
Would anybody else like to speak first? All right. So, and I really appreciate the thought and the consideration that went in after the new one, and I like the new reorgs and all of that's going in. My question is in regard to the Community Engagement and Culture Committee. Much of that particular budget actually relates to parks. For simplicity and so for clarity for our public, I'm wondering if maybe we could just, parks, recreation, and social development. I'm not sure what people would be expecting out of a community engagement and certainly a culture committee. I look to the budget items that are under that, but I see a social development would definitely encompass the community engagement and that culture piece that I think we want to move towards. But I think the committee should actually reflect what we talk about. And so our parks and recreation have a big chunk of what we do, especially with the sportsplex.
Okay. Any thoughts from staff on that? No. Q&As. Further?
Just super, it's just a, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
a tweak.
realistically, as long as we keep the same items in the committee, that's perfectly fine. But yes, I mean, people get hung up on names. Go right ahead,
Just
Mr.
to
Thomas.
confirm, the new name will be?
Well, I'm suggesting Parks, Recreation, Social Development.
Parks, Rec, Culture, Social Development, Parks, Rec,
Yeah.
Social.
I looked at the culture, which is also part of the social infrastructure, so I did land on social.
Yeah.
But I'm not married to
Yeah.
that. I just, again, this is about the Parks and
We'll
Recreation.
work on that.
Okay.
Further?
Yeah, oh, yeah. And then I also, just on that. some of notes here. So with sort of the working groups, the community consultation and engagement, and so under the suggestion is just noticing where it may be economic development, so that that discussion around the town development, et cetera, and just making sure that we're aligning it. But that was just an example for it. And then I also wondered is under the community or Parks and Recreation now committee, is if we wanted to look at putting physician recruitment and or professional recruitment and retention under there as part of our social development.
That's a separate committee outside of council.
Well, I didn't
completely.
understand all the workflow, so I'm just putting it out
Okay,
there.
so where would it, are you more asking where
Where
would it fit?
How do we, the reorgs, because they're, which I love these charts, they're so good.
There's color.
I know. So help me understand.
Is that, Mr. Thomas, would you figure that falls under economic development, or where in this chart would liaising with recruitment and?
They would liaise directly with council
Okay.
because it's a select committee at this point.
It's a select committee at this point.
If council was to dissolve the select committee and create a working group under one of the standing committees,
But it
then-
is covered under a select committee.
it
at this
is.
point.
It's a separate thing, standalone,
Okay,
has a term of reference in place.
And supplemental on the last point, again, the community development and infrastructure, our community has asked through several engagement surveys that the economic policies are really important to them. I think if anybody looks to our community and looks to committees, I just wondered if it's important to have community economic development and infrastructure. But somehow naming that an economic development is important to our community and the vision for it.
okay, you lost me.
So right now we have community develop and infrastructure.
Okay,
What we hear from our citizens or have heard is that economic development is one of the top priorities. It is actually in our strategic plan at economic development.
so
So I'm suggesting that it's community economic development and infrastructure.
I think I get your thing. Great. Yep, go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Just another point, there's also a separate standing committee for Community Economic Development Task Force, or Select Committee, sorry.
I understand. And again, this is just for when people come and if they look at our website and they look at sort of various committees, so investors or anybody, that they see that our committees actually have economic included in them. So it's just a signal, for that sort of trigger. I think we've got it all aligned, but I think that we need to say what we're actually going to do. And that economic development piece is very key. Yeah. What does the file folder say and where would you go? So as a developer, which of those committees would you go to that you would want to see what's happening? And I'm wondering if they might want to say, okay, I want to see community economic development. Just to see that term.
Okay, sorry.
And that's on page 35.
Okay. Any thoughts from anybody else? I'd be more inclined to put it in the definition of what that's about, because I see community developments and community economic development as two different things. But, what's in a name? Okay. I don't really have a thought on that.
Do we throw another and in and it's community and economic development and infrastructure? Or is that too many
That
ands?
works.
I think it's a great suggestion.
I think that clarifies it more than anything else. Okay. Work on that, leave that in. Leave staff to clarify those. So the recommendation is still there with the recommended changes to staff. Councillor Bamford.
A quick question, and it's just a small issue. The second recommendation says for a term effective January 1st, 2022. Do we need to put January 1st and July 1st? They are changing. So it's more of a technical question, or will this cover it?
No, I think it covers it for the committees and the structure. The appointments to the committees are the thing that changes on July 1st, if I'm looking at that.
Right, and that's what the second recommendation is. It says the council approves the appointments of the committee of the district, da, 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 da. So I'm just wondering whether we need to throw in January and July, just for safety's sake.
I think we're actually
May not
going
be
for the
needed.
full year, are we not?
No.
No,
Oh, because
6
it's
months.
the appointments, right. Yes, because we're doing two things at the same time here. One, we're switching up definition or names of committees essentially, because they're going to still do the same thing. But this recommendation is actually on the appointments to the committees, which is a completely different topic
I
than
agree with
with
you,
their names. Okay, so we've made suggestions to staff for changes to the names. I don't think that's part of the recommendation. So the recommendation we're passing right now is if we can amend it to the council approves the appointments to the committees of the District of Clearwater, standing, select, and external, for a term effective January 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2022. That's the new recommendation. Somebody wish to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by somebody online. Sure, Councillor Bamford will give him a chance. If there's anything you'd like to change in there, come back to me later if there's a conflict, but other than that, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, third recommendation. The council approves the appointment of acting mayors outlined in section 130 of the community charter. Those appointments are on a rotational basis as outlined in District Clearwater Procedure Bylaw number 131, 2014, starting with Councillor Frizzle, December 2021, with remaining council members on a monthly rotational basis through December 2022. There is a schedule on page 29 of 98. Once again, if there's a conflict or something you can like to change there, we can do that now or we can do it later. Moved by Councillor Taylor, thank you. Seconder, Councillor McKenzie. The procedure in the past, and I think it still stands, is if you are unavailable, if I'm unavailable as mayor, you're unavailable as acting mayor, it falls to the person that was the month before, and so on, trickle down if there is a conflict. So you always have a backup even as acting mayor. All those in favor? And that passes. Moving on to item 18.3, page 30 to 37 of your agenda, terms of reference for standing committees. Are there any questions of staff on this? There are multiple recommendations.
Well, I know, but you know, we had it.
I mean, you've already made comments on this
Yeah.
and staff has taken note on this. So there is recommendations there. I think the gist of the committees is still intact. We haven't changed any of the content of them, so it's just an adjustment of naming and things like that and how we present them to the public. So recommendation 1 is that council adopt the Government Operations Committee terms of reference as presented on December 7th, 2021. Regular council meeting and authorizes creation of the following working groups: Council Strategic Plan Working Group, Finance and Audit Working Group, and Public Policy Working Group. Mr. Thomas, maybe just speak to a little bit about how the changes to this sort of format makes life easier, better, different.
Absolutely. So in the current structure, all the meetings are actually formal meetings that requires agenda preparation, minutes taking, and a series of process that leads up to reporting back to council. With the new structure, there is council, obviously, then followed by committee of a whole. And if the committee of a whole wishes to study a particular topic in greater depth, it can refer it to a working group, which consists of up to 3 members proposing up to 3 members of council and staff. We sit down, we look at the issue in depth, and effectively those members of council will become sponsors of the discussion when it gets back to council or when it gets back to the committee of a whole. Those discussion in a working group will be more informal as a business administrative meeting between members of council and staff. And so we're able to get to the heart of the matter really quickly without the administrative apparatus surrounding that.
Does that make some sense to people? I see this as Councillor Sim.
So, but we have not established the working groups. That would be for us to establish moving forward.
That's correct.
That's part of the recommendation.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah, I see this as a, especially with the people being busy, the ability to get quorum, the reporting issues, the amount of workload on staff. The fact that we can basically discuss things, work through the pros and cons in an informal setting before it comes to any sort of formal council meeting, I think could make life a lot easier, and it won't require us all to be here to do that. But all of council in the end will have a say on it as well. So, and this is very close to the structure that the TNRD currently operates under as far as committees. They have a lot of subcommittees, but it does work. It also allows just sometimes the staff lead, not always the CEO, to be there so that we're not taking up everybody's time. Okay. So there is recommendation 1. Somebody wish to move that one? Councillor Frizzle, seconder. Councillor Taylor, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, recommendation 2, that council adopt the community development and infrastructure committee terms of reference as presented at the December 7th, 2021 regular council meeting, and authorize the creation of working groups, infrastructure planning and development working group, housing working group, forestry initiatives working group, and Council, Mr.
The changes Councillor
Yeah.
Sim had incorporated.
Including the changes that were suggested.
So for the name, so that
Yeah.
one is the, and actually it was Councillor, Community and Economic.
Development and Infrastructure
Yeah.
Committee. Yes, okay. So that's what it goes into the minutes as. Somebody, I'm just reading it out. Somebody wants to make the motion in that form? Somebody say yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Sim. Somebody wish to second it. Oh, Councillor Herring, are you seconding that? Thank you. Online, all those in favor? And that passes. And the third recommendation, that council adopt the Community Engagement and Culture Committee terms of reference. Did we change the name on that one?
Yep.
Okay, what was the new name?
So I'd like to move that council adopt the community,
Park Recreation and Social Development.
love it, thank you.
Okay,
Um,
Earth, Wind and Fire.
So moved.
Okay, moved, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Terms of references presented in December 7th, 2020 regular council meeting, and authorize the creation of the following work groups: major community events working group. Okay. Discussion among council. Seeing none, all those in favor, thank you, and we're through that part. Moving to item 18.4, I'm just going to take a second to catch up on my notes, my agenda, page 38 to 43, Community Economic Development Task Force extension of term. Councilor Frizzle, maybe you're gonna. Sure, then I can have a drink.
All right.
Do you wish to move the recommendation?
Oh, you want me to move it? I'll move the
Well, yeah,
recommendation.
you can read it and move it as well.
All right, I move that the revised terms of reference for the Community Economic Development Task Force be extended for a 1-year term from January 1st to December 31st, 2022, and that members of the Community Economic Development Task Force be reappointed for a further 1-year term as follows. AJ Backhall, is that
Sure.
Business at Large, Doug Borrow, Business at Large, Hugh Graffender, Agricultural Sector, Jeff Lamont, Business at Large, Mira LaRoche, Tourism Sector, Harry Mincy, Chamber of Commerce, Chris Olson, Business at Large, Ron Rutsetter, Business at Large, Carol Schaefer, Thompson Nickel Regional District, Lauren Selby, Retail Storefront Sector, Hans Wadlager, Forest Sector, and Nikki Vincent, Yellowhead Community Services.
Anything further on that? No,
Need
no
a
changes to
seconder.
that. Seconder on that? Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor? Okay. Moving on to item 18.5, working great today, by the way. Council Chambers audio visual upgrades. There is a recommendation in a staff report, 44 to 46. Any questions of staff on that? I would like to comment that I think that's great. I think pretty much everything that you've listed there is pain points, and pain is probably the appropriate word for this. I've either experienced or I fully understand in my understanding of electronics and the joy of them from 25 years ago in radio school. Any questions on this one? I think oh, sorry, is there one online? Bill, Councillor Herring.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think this is a really good idea. We're gonna have to keep recording these meetings, I think, probably indefinitely. So I think it's a good idea to upgrade. My only thing I might want to add is, can we get a smoke machine? I feel like smoke machine, some disco lights.
I think we put that in the swag budget, but yes, with all the dance skills and stuff that are getting learned around here and things like that, and your extensive vinyl collection, I think it may be in order. Maybe we'll start a select committee to discuss those issues at a future date.
Yeah. Party planner.
Okay, fair enough. So there is a recommendation. Does somebody wish to move the recommendation? So moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Herring, just because he wants a smoke machine. All those in favor? And that passes. You have reports, staff reports on the next items. 18.6, infrastructure master plan. Some good points in there. Questions of staff on that? That is page 47. Nothing online. Okay. I think what we've learned, I'll start with an initial comment, especially on the infrastructure master plan, what we've learned since the floods and since the wildfires of the summer. And this has been expressed to our engineering company as well, that we have to think of things in a different light. So it's good to have these reviews, especially floods with a huge chunk of our major infrastructure for sewer in a floodplain. Okay. Nothing further from anybody else? Okay.
One
Councillor
quick
Bamford, go
question.
ahead.
One quick question there, Blackwell. Given that the cost development bylaw, I think, needs to be renewed, is it worth just throwing ideas into yourself and to our CEO in relationship to what things we think need to be on that?
Yeah, you're coming through and a little unclear, but the gist of that was that you want to, is it a good idea to throw ideas towards the CEO and staff, or the CEO through to staff?
Exactly. I think we had 5 things on the cost development bylaw last time. Some of those things probably need to be retained, but it's just a matter of what things do we want to look at in the future.
Under the DCC bylaw targets.
Exactly.
Okay, Councillor, sorry, Mr. Thomas.
That's a great idea for a working group on public policy.
Ooh, there you go. You're making change already, Councillor Bamford. Okay, the next staff report, if there's nothing further, not seeing anything further, is Protective Services Project Update. Another report with a lot of small items on there, fuel management grants and that sort of thing. Also alarm bylaw, that'd be great. Any questions of Mr. Smith, Chief Smith on that? Seeing none, moving on to the next one. If there's anything that you catch, feel free to interrupt me and move backwards. Splash Park Gazebo. This is exciting. So let's see, there's a little bit of a plan there. It looks an awful lot in function, at least like the one at the beach, which has gone over incredibly well. Okay. Any questions of staff on that? Councillor Frizzle. Glad you asked.
Councillor Frizzle, we can't hear you online.
Sorry. That's my fault. Sorry. I'm asking about the $15,000 that they're going to ask us for the gazebo. And what does that mean?
The additional funds would be going towards the construction of the gazebo.
So this is straight funds towards the construction of the gazebo, Mr.
Yes, the Rotary wanted to do something a little less than, and staff had recommended that the gazebo at the Dutch Lake, that this gazebo match that, so that funds were required, additional funds were required.
Okay, so this is just a report at this time, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming that Rotary will come to council
Yeah.
For that presentation. Okay, so it's a heads up. Okay,
Thank you.
does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does.
Thank you. District of Clearwater Emergency Program Review. This is another one from Mike Smith, Fire Chief and Deputy Director of EOC. A lot in this one, and this one's got color in it. We're just burning up the printer ink on these. But yes, I think this is incredibly timely. Any questions of Mr. Smith on this? There's a lot. Getting all of the people listed in number 5, item 5, page 56 in the same room is always useful. And then running things like tabletops and the like as well. Going through emergency plans is never a waste of time. And I think we've all learned that from 2021 in spades. Councillor Sim, yay.
So my first question is in the project overview, the district and TNRD jointly recognize that the current structure may not be viable on a go-forward basis. And I just wondered what may not be viable.
So the current structure in place provides the District of Clearwater effectively reaching out to TNRD, who has to strike the EOC, and then we can move forward with responding to an emergency. And I wrote that it may not be viable because in 2021, when we reached out to them regarding the fire situation, they said they don't have capacity. You guys can proceed on your own effectively.
So supplemental. So is it that they didn't have the capacity because our area wasn't necessarily impacted, whereas we had the fires in the past that was extended? So I'm just wondering the criteria.
I think the understanding of how the EOC is struck and managed is completely different from what's reflected in the bylaw. TNRD, from my conversation with representatives of TNRD, fully expects that the district would effectively take care of its own affairs and ask for resources like mapping support or the addition of members to our EOC if they have resources available. But the expectation is that we make those decisions, not rely on TNRD's board or any other entities to strike it.
Okay, Councillor Herring first, and then we'll go back to you if you want one. Councillor Herring, Councillor Bamford.
Yeah, so my question is, do we not pay the TNRD every year for emergency management services? And
Yes.
if we are paying them, why, if they're not helping us? This sounds like money we should be clawing back immediately.
That's a discussion for a day. Yep.
On the financial aspect, it is certainly something council should consider during the next budget process, whether the requisition should continue.
Okay, Councillor Bamford, did you have a thought or a comment?
My only comment was on page 57. it says community at large and it says all who wish to participate. Are we gonna limit that, or you're gonna have 20 people if they want to participate in an EOC?
I think we could, I mean, this isn't a resolution, but community at large could be community stakeholders at large. But Mr. Thomas can speak to that.
So this is not the EOC setup. These are people we're intending to speak to in developing the new plan.
Okay,
Right, yes.
okay.
So engaging the community, TNRD, the whole list goes on. And we're also looking at tapping into the resources of Al-Sid, who has done a project on the District of Clearwater, actually, for one of his programs on the emergency program for Clearwater. So he also has some expertise that we're going to lean on as well.
The only other question I would have, should the Ministry of Forests, Lands and Natural Resources, is that something that would be one of the members we'd want to contact?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, I think on some of these in the past, there's been extra as needed or people that have an interest in this brought to the table as well. I don't think this is an exclusive list. Councillor Sim, did you have any further?
Yeah, I still just want to go back to, I should have looked for the bylaw because I don't understand what's not working or how it doesn't mirror. So that was it. And I guess I just want to know is that the district and TNR jointly recognize that the current structure may not be viable. And yet we're so intertwined. Like it's impossible to look at Little Fort, Blackpool, Wellsbury Park and all of that without them. So just
For
not-
sure. Thoughts? My thoughts on that is relying on the TNRD for services, having the TNRD as a partner in action are two different things. We don't have internal mapping services. We have some access through our infrastructure engineering company. But yes, I mean, I think why an emergency plan review and update is important at this time is because of all the things that have happened in 2021 and the previous years. Things got stretched to the max and beyond. And I think it's critically important that we actually ask all these questions of these people in the room to see if the system is sustainable. And as Councillor Herring and Councillor Bamford and Councillor Sim have pointed out, we may not need to think about a new model or increased funding or a different way of doing things.
And then my final question is I'm just wondering, especially after the experience of Lytton and definitely Merritt, is including the hospital and the school in this list.
Yeah, I don't think it's an exclusive list, but yeah, I mean, at large stakeholders that definitely fit in there for sure. Yeah. So Mr. Smith will have a few more invitees or attempted invitees to.
Mayor Blackwell.
Hold on. Oh, hey, we've got a portable mic now. Just hold on 1 second. And then Councillor Bamford, I think you had a question. I'll get to you in a second. Mr. Chief Smith's going to make a.
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, yes. So in speaking with Al-Sid Prime, our fire captain, he came up with a few more stakeholders to engage with. They were school district, interior health, the senior society, Evergreen Acres, because that's a large population that would be at risk, you know, should we need to evacuate, right? So.
There's more to it. Councillor Bamford, did you have a further comment?
I'm just wondering about Councillor Sim's concern over the last part of that, where the structure may not be viable. And I'm just wondering whether it be something that the structure may need to be amended given any situation or something like that, or some wording around amending it versus not viable. Just means that you have the flexibility to adapt it if the situation is like last summer.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to find out from this review.
Good.
If I'm reading that right. Okay. Yeah. And it is timely that we're going to start on this now or relatively soon because after the last year, we know that disasters happen year round. Buy an extra snow shovel, that's all I'm saying. Okay, so that's item 18.9 unless there's anything further. Moving on to Russell Creek update. So there's a staff report 53 to 62. Oh, maybe not. No, 63, page 63, sorry. We have some generators in place. Now, any questions of staff on that? Go ahead, Councillor Frizzle.
I'm just, that, you've got 3 there, but there's still, are we still looking at a larger generator? That's, okay.
We are looking at a larger
Yeah,
generator.
I just
Okay,
wanted to
good.
clarify that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
this is a good interim solution, and these units aren't that expensive and can be moved around, but yes. In the long term, beefy might be better. Transfer station septic fund, or sorry, transfer septic funds to sewer, item 18.11. There's a recommendation, the council directs staff to transfer $560,000 from 2021 septic receiving revenues to the 2021 sewer fund revenues in lieu of cell 1 borrowing, and cell 1 borrowing be canceled. So we might get out of a bill because of our extra income from septids receiving this year. Any questions of staff on this? Give you a second to think about this. I find it in the backgrounder on page 65. Council resolved that annual low payments of $462,686.26. We get rid of that by doing this payoff. That saves quite a lot in the long term. And I think this is based on interest rates. Would this be my question would be, the initial borrowing here, was that a fixed rate 15-year loan, or was this
15-year, sorry, Your Worship.
it's a 15-year borrowing term, but all the talk seems to be that interest rates are going to go up in the next calendar year.
Yes,
So this could get more.
it would start fixed.
Okay.
And then at the end, there would be a difference of a payout for the final payments on it, depending on what interest rates do. They have a debt reserve fund too, so if they either would want more money if interest rates go off, or they would give us a payout if interest rates went, well, they can't really go any lower, but.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, okay. Okay. Questions of staff on this one? No. Somebody wish to move the recommendation? Moved by Councilor McKenzie, seconded by Councilor Herring. All those in favor? Wow, that was fun. I am a big fan of not holding on to any sort of debt, so I love things like this. And I had a discussion with Ms. Shepherd. The revenue from this keeps growing. Is that not correct? We're not done with how much income we're taking in from our poo overages this year.
We're estimating that we will take in $900,000 in revenue this year for septic receiving.
What's a standard year? Just
120,000.
okay. There's lots of jokes in that. And Councilor, sorry, Mr. Thomas.
I would like to add, with the additional revenues come with additional pressures on the public works staffing component,
Yes.
which is part justification for why we hired an on-call laborer person. I can foresee if the trends continue in 2022, we will require some stabilization in that capacity there. So.
Yeah, and there's nothing free in this, so yeah. Okay. A nice easy one. Item 18.12, insurance. Recommendations A and B, liability insurance and property insurance. Two recommendations there. One is, they're both through MIA ABC, which is self-funded by municipalities. We wish, move recommendation 1. Thank you, Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. This is a good deal compared to private insurance companies. All those in favor? The second one is for District of Clearwater's property and cyber insurance. Maximum amount of $87,814 to be expended from the 2022 5-year financial plan. Questions of staff? If not, mover and seconder on that. Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Herring. All those in favor? Cyber insurance is a big deal. I can think of at least 4 municipalities in British Columbia that it has cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, and paralyzed their systems for months upon end. So thank you for passing that one. Moving on to bylaws, item 19, 19.1. Just need to catch up on my agenda. 73. This is the adoption of the Clearwater sewer user fees bylaw number 258/21. Somebody wish to move this one? Moved by Councillor Taylor, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Frizzle. District of Clearwater bylaw number 258/2021, a bylaw to impose sewer user fees for 2021 to 2023. Whereas section 194(1) of the community charter allows council by law to impose fees payable in respect of funding the sewer services. Now therefore, the municipal council of the District of Clearwater, province of British Columbia, in an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater sewer user fees for 2022-2023, bylaw number 258/2021. All those in favor? And that passes. And then District of Clearwater water user fees 2021-2023 bylaw. Any questions on that one? This is adoption as well. Can I get a mover and a seconder on it? Moved by Councillor Herring, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Okay. District of Clearwater bylaw number 259/2021, a bylaw to impose water fees for 2022-2023. Whereas section 194(1) of the community charter allows council by bylaw to impose fees payable in respect of funding the water services. Now therefore, the municipal council of the District of Clearwater, province of British Columbia, in an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the District of Clearwater water user fees for 2022-2023, bylaw number 259/2021. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. No correspondence response required. CN Rail news release. New rules concerning agricultural ALR parcels. If you read the fine print on that, that's talking about adding second homes to ALR lands with a primary residence. That's been asked for by landowners and a lot of communities in British Columbia as farmers age out and want to still stay on their land, but the kids want to take over the farm. So a lot of people fought for that. Hopefully it provides that. Item 21.3, taxation benefiting rail and industrial operations, and item 21.4, BCSBCA regulation of second generation anticoagulant rodenticides, cigars. Yeah, some of the stuff we get in the mail. Are there any comments or questions on any of those? Seeing none, there are no notices of motion. Other business. Comments from the public. Do the public have any comments? Not seeing any. We do need to move into in camera today. For section something and something of something and something, which I have now lost. I think I have it actually. Oh, thanks. Cool. I attached it to something else. Thank you. So the recommendation that the council of the District of Clearwater and senior staff, as per section 91 CK of the community charter, be closed to the public to consider matters relating to labor relations or other employee relations, negotiations, and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their primary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Herring or Taylor, whoever you wrote down. All those in favor? And we are good. We will take a 10-minute recess and come back for that. So see you at 3:20.